Look out, y'all. It's your boy Ashy Knuckles doing a live stream for the 2017 Boxing Earring Review online boxing community honors for the different fight categories for this fight year of 2017. This is probably one of the first, but won't be the last. A lot of guys will be doing their own videos, um, talking about the various honor categories of the year. A lot of the different radio podcasts will be doing theirs. And shit, since I've already been drinking, I figured I might as well go ahead and get mine out of the way before I get too damn drunk and can't do it anyway because I won't be able to think straight. A couple of guys who are respected in the boxing communities online that will be doing theirs. I know 78, he's going to do his, I believe, next week. That one should be real big. You got, I'm sure the Boxing Voice, they'll be doing theirs. I think Rope Dope Radio, they'll be doing theirs this coming week. The Ringside Report with Joe Habib, I think theirs will be coming up. So to chime in on that as we discuss the various fighters, and different accomplishments that have occurred in the year 2017, which has been a very good year for boxing. We've seen a lot of things occur this year. We've seen upsets. We've seen guys make statement fights. We've seen guys make statements in rematches where they were basically up against it. You know, when most people would think that they would lose in the rematch because the first fight would be so competitive and they would make their name in the second fight. You got prospects that turn into contenders this year. You got contenders that turn into world champions. You got just a whole plethora of good fights that took place this year, which actually kicks the door wide open for what's going to happen in the year 2018 in the various boxing divisions that we have in the sport of boxing. I'm sure we got a bunch of new fans this year. Of course, we're going to have a lot of fans of fighters. There's not an era that has gone by that, at least that I've been a part of, where we have fans of particular fighters and not fans of the sport. Um, and you know, that's just par for the course. When those fighters end up falling off, those fans being as fickle as hell as they are, will go back to fucking ping pong and golf and figure skating because they're not real boxing fans any damn way. So, with that being said, I think we should move forward with the various topics at hand and the different categories that we have for the boxing year-end review online honors. Um, so what does that mean for the various fighters and coaches and whatnot? For the different categories that they win, obviously I don't have a trophy for the motherfuckers. I don't have any cash prize or anything like that. It's just honors. I'm online recognition from boxing fans saying, hey, we appreciate what you did this year. Good looking out. We're recognizing you in a sport that's filled with a lot of criticism, a lot of bias, whether it be favoritism, whether it be racism, whether it be warranted with or without merit. This is boxing. This is the sport that we know and love. And, you know, it's always been like that. But you know what? As the years go by, it's getting better. It's always getting better and better and better. It's all about what you can deal with, what you can take as we move forward, as we continue to grow the sport for the betterment of the sport. So, moving on. So the various categories are the same that it's always been. Stuff like that. We got fight of the year. We got KO of the year. We got upset of the year. We have trainer of the year. We have robbery of the year, fighter of the year, comeback fighter of the year, prospect of the year. We got fighters to look out for in the year 2018. I think when we at least get to that part, if we have a good chat, guys who participate in the chat can really chime in and give their opinion on who should we look out for moving forward. I guess we can have a different categories that we never had before, like statement fighter of the year. What fighter really made the biggest statement? You know, now that's very subjective. I mean, that could be anybody, of course. Like I said, there are a lot of guys who are fans of fighters, so they're going to nominate whoever their favorite fighter is, which is fun in this platform. I wouldn't give a blue fuck who you nominate. It's whatever you think, whatever you feel. But to me, when you thinking about statement fighter of the year, which is not a normal category, it's got to be, in my opinion, a fighter, not a shitbag fighter, obviously, but it's got to be a fighter who you did not expect to be able to do the things that they did, and they did them. You know what I'm saying? You know, so and also we also got round of the year, which is one of the categories that most guys usually make a part of their boxing year-end review. So I guess we'll kick this thing off with one of the more popular categories, which is KO of the year, knockout of the year. Well, I was trying to compile a list of all the great knockouts. You know, if you really watch boxing, it's a lot of great fights you see. It's a lot of fights that you see with guys who don't have names also. And those particular fights may be entertaining, and they also end in dramatic KOs. So for the sake of keeping the list as concise as possible, I excluded a lot of fights and try to stick with the fighters that most people are aware of currently, you know, because you can actually drag this damn thing out. And I'm not trying to do that. That's why I said if guys get in the chat and they start offering their own opinions and of the different categories, you know, I'll definitely read it and throw it in there, and you know, just adding more variety to the video. So KO of the year. The first KO of the year. Now, I'm not talking about a regular stoppage. I'm not talking about a stop. It's a difference between a stoppage and a KO. A stoppage also, I mean, it goes in the KO category when you're saying, oh, a guy has such and such wins, such and such losses, and those such and such wins coming by way of KO. Now, a stoppage is included in the KO category numerically, but a stoppage is usually a win via stoppage. That means it was stopped. The referee stopped it. You know what I'm saying? It was stopped by the ringside physician. They were stopped. They can go no further. KO, nobody has to fucking stop it. You know what I'm talking about? When you got the ability to disconnect a guy with a shot, you know what I'm saying? That's a KO. That's a knockout. Knockout. Typically, you count to 10. Some guys get knocked the fuck out where they omit the count altogether. That's a KO. You know what I'm saying? So I try to, you know, be consistent on that in itself, because if we go by stoppages, it's a lot of stoppages that occur through the course of a year that you, like I say, you could drag these categories out forever, you know? So let's go by just KOs, you know, legit KOs. First one on the list, heavyweights, Deontay Wilder versus Bermane Stiverne 2. Now, we already know about the issues that's been going on at heavyweight. Wilder was going to fight Povetkin, and that didn't happen because of some dirty drug testing that took place on behalf of Povetkin. And then he was supposed to fight Luis Ortiz. Same thing. He tested positive for some type of banned substance, whether it was a performance enhancer or not. It was banned on the list in terms of what you can have in your body as a combatant in the sport of boxing in the particular state that you're fighting in, under their jurisdiction, because boxing is regulated by state. It's not nationally regulated. So he had to fight his mandatory, which was a guy who he first won the title from, which is Bermane Stiverne. Big time knockout. It ended early. He did not feel he should be in the ring with this guy, and like a legit fighter, he did what he had to do and get this guy out of there. Now, what happened? He hit this guy first with a 1-2 that sent his ass down. Hit his ass so hard that Stiverne would get up and say, you know what? He hit me behind my head, ref. He hit me behind my damn head. To which the ref was like, nah, Cochise, you just got put down. You know, and I think Wilder would put his ass down again, to which he would beat the count. In fact, he was to me a little bit more groggy from the first knockdown, right? But he got up. But the third one and final one, it was a wrap. His ass was on his knees with his back to the canvas. He was gone. So for the first category, I'm going Deontay Wilder, Bermane Stiverne. That's the first one. And then, you know, y'all can chime in if you want or who you think it is or whatever. But, you know, I'm going to keep this thing going. Then you got Jermell Charlo versus Erickson Lubin. A fight where you had the young contender and Erickson Lubin. Everybody know he has power in his hands. He's been knocking guys out. He was really making the statement that he should be up for a title shot. Then you got Jermell, one of the twins, saying, he didn't believe that the guy belonged in the ring with him. And when they got in the ring, a guy who was normally accustomed to boxing somebody's ears off knocked Erickson Lubin out. He hit his ass with an uppercut. Erickson Lubin he went to the ground and had his arms and his nerves were jumping. And that was just a major, major, major KO, Now, granted, after the 10 count, he got up. That means, he probably was in some type of shape to be able to, get out of that groggy state and finally make it to his feet. But to no avail, he was gone. Actually, Jermell Charlo is in 2 of these categories because he had a fight with Charles Hatley, which was a good amateur, and he would knock him out as well in a really good fight. So we got Deontay Wilder versus Bermane Stiverne 2. We got Jermell Charlo versus Erickson Lubin. Jermell Charlo versus Charles Hatley. That's just the first 3. Now we got David Lemieux, a guy who just got his ears boxed off by Billy Joe Saunders, knocking out Curtis Stevens. It was a short hook in the middle of Curtis Stevens' combination. Curtis Stevens was back to the rope. He was trying to throw a 2-shot combination, to which David Lemieux would catch him with a hook in between his combination, put his ass down and out. He was gone. You know what I'm saying? Bringing the Epsom salt. Somebody bring a pillow and a damn blankie. Bring that boy a goddamn pacifier in a bottle. Bring that boy a goddamn teddy bear. Sing him a lullaby, read him a story. Curtis Stevens' ass was gone. That was a big knockout. You know what I'm saying? All that knockout, I would recommend you guys go on YouTube, which is a great website, to look up the fights you want to see if they're on there, and you go search that fight, David Lemieux versus Curtis Stevens. Big knockout via left hook. Don't miss it. Don't miss that. Okay. The next entry in this category would be Jarrett Swift Hurd versus Tony Harrison. Back and forth fight. Big, rugged, tough Jarrett Hurd. Tony Harrison with the really good skills. They went at it. Tony Harrison was pretty much having his way in that fight. I believe that was for a title. He was going for a second. I believe, don't quote me on this, he was going for a second world title fight. I think he fought what the fuck is that guy's name? The tall guy at 54. Willie, fuck. Y'all gonna make me do a search. Well, anyway, he was fighting against in a title fight, to which it was closely contested between two top guys at the weight, but Harrison was getting the better of the exchanges. And around round 9, Jarrett Hurd, in typical Jarrett Hurd fashion, will pull a come from behind knockout victory over Tony Harrison. It was Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson is who he had the first fight against, to which he lost. That wasn't a title fight. I thought it was a title fight, but I just did a search on it. So I'm going to throw Jarrett Hurd versus Willie Nelson in that category. Now, granted, I guess you could say that was a stoppage victory, but to me, he looked like he was gone. You know what I'm talking about? He was gone. But I'm going to go ahead and throw that in the mix as well. You know what I'm saying? You got Julius Ndongo versus Terrence Crawford in the, I believe, the only undisputed matchup this year. If I'm wrong, please put it in the chat that I'm wrong about that, or leave a comment later on archive. But I believe this was the only undisputed match this year to which Terrence Crawford would knock out Ndongo with a shot to the body. I believe it was a counter left to the body that will put him down for the count of 10. Now, granted, he was hurt. Obviously, he couldn't get up. It may have been a liver shot. I don't remember. You know, it's a lot of fights that we watch all year long. But I think it was a liver shot that put him down. You know, you hit a guy in the liver, hey, you're going to freeze him, and it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? Only a few guys will be able to get up from a liver shot. You're still going to be hurt, you know, but they managed to make it to their feet and continue fighting while hurt. You know, it takes a special guy to be able to do that. He wasn't one of those guys who can do that. The list. We also got Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez getting knocked out by, I can't say this guy's name. Y'all saw the fight. Y'all got to forgive me, you know, when it comes to guys who don't have names I can pronounce easily like Jim Thorne. I could pronounce that easily. But y'all know the fight I'm talking about. It's the Ramon Gonzalez fight, the last fight he had. I can't, you know, I can't say that shit, man. Forgive me about that. But you remember the fight, and you remember that knockout. He knocked Chocolatito out, and any talks of Roman Gonzalez being the top pound-for-pound fighter in the world. All that took place in that night. It was a beautiful knockout, well-timed, and, you know, he caught him right on the button, and that was the end of that thing. And the last entry onto the list for KO of the year, and this is just me, y'all. Like I said, if you think you want to put some in there, you know, be my guest. Dejan Zlaticanin against Mikey Garcia. Even have a KO of the year category without mentioning one of the first beautiful KOs of the year. Zlaticanin against Garcia. I believe it was a fight for the WBC world title. Zlaticanin, I mean, it's not like, even though he's not a name that you readily hear about in the States, when you look at his resume and who he beat to acquire that WBC title, you got to give him credit to getting to the point to how he got there. You know what I'm saying? Mikey Garcia being a two-division world champion at that time, you know, we knew him. You know, he comes from a fighting family. We know about the Garcias. All right? But Zlaticanin, he had knocked off prospect Ivan Redkach, who had a great fight with what is his name? The guy that give us real good fights, man. John Molina. He had a real good fight with John Molina this year. Back and forth fight, but Ivan Redkach was 18-0 prospect, and Zlaticanin would come through and stop him in 4 rounds. He also would fight Ricky Burns. He would fight Ricky Burns, and even he would win that fight by split decision. But at the end of the day, these are 2 names that he had on his ledger, which solidify why he was able to secure a top fight against Mikey Garcia. And Mikey Garcia, even though he was not, he had not been at lightweight that long, Um, in fact, he had only fought at lightweight. Matter of fact, that may have been his first fight at lightweight because I think he fought the guy Broner beat right before that. The guy Broner beat, and they fought at 140 pounds. But this was his first fight at lightweight for the WBC world title, and he would win it in emphatic fashion. I think he got Zlaticanin hurt with a left hook, to which Zlaticanin would stumble to the ropes, and Mikey would set his feet and come with a big, vicious right cross. It looked like a uppercut hook combination, almost like a check hook, but it wasn't done in a countering fashion, so you couldn't say it was a check hook. But it was a big hook that would put his ass down and out for the count. It was over. So those are my categories for KO of the year. Wilder Stiverne 2, Charlo Lubin, Charlo Hatley, Lemieux Stevens, Hurd Harrison, and Dongo Crawford, the Chocolatito knockout, and Zlaticanin versus Mikey Garcia. And the knockout of the year, if y'all want to put who you think should win it, go ahead and put it in the chat right now for the people that are watching right now live. Go ahead and put that in the chat. Go ahead and make the call myself. Now, I could be biased. I can easily say it was the Charlos, but because I know these guys, I think I was one of the first to introduce Charlos to the world. I'm going to go ahead and exclude my boy Mel from the category. And y'all just make sure y'all check him out in any of his fights moving forward, because as long as Jamel fighting the way he's been fighting, and the different intangibles and skills and stuff he's been adding to his game, this guy gonna be tough to deal with at 154 pounds. That's why I don't do no videos on the Charlos, because I know I can be biased. New Fat Boy Fitness says Tank Davis KO Pedraza was nasty. That was nasty too. That was nasty too. And I did review that fight. But I don't remember why I didn't put that in the categories. Maybe because he kind of avoid Lomachenko. No, that's not it. I'm just bullshitting. It was some reason why I didn't add the Tank Davis KO Pedraza. I think that was when Tank won the world title. That was a nasty shot. But I excluded it for some reason. But you mentioning it, I'm gonna go ahead and throw that in there too. Tank Davis KO of Pedraza was a very nasty shot. They kind of got him on the scene. That was his first big fight where he was seen on a national stage. So, no, he don't need to rush and fight Loma at all. But in a couple of fights, maybe we can, they should talk at that point. You know what I'm saying? No need to rush that cat. But as far as the winner, it's got to be out of the Lemieux Stevens knockout. It's got to be either the Zlaticanin knockout with Mikey Garcia, and it's got to be out of Chocolatito. Hell, man, it could be any of these, man. I'm gonna go on a limb and say the knockout of the year belongs to. It's tough, man. It's tough. I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Deontay Wilder, man. I'm gonna give it to the guy. The guy's fighting in the glamour division, which is the heavyweight division. Of course, if you pick any of the other ones, that's cool with me too. Knockouts are beautiful, man. That's one of the reasons why we watch this sport. But the heavyweight division is the glamour division. Deontay Wilder, fed up with what was going on in the sport of boxing and his big fights being held up. In fact, he had to sue Povetkin because of their failure to do that fight contractually. I think he won $5 million on that. But due to his frustration and having to fight his mandatory, which is Bermane Stiverne, who was talking greasy at the press conference, he knocked him the fuck out to let him know it's levels and you're not on mine. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to Deontay Wilder for KO of the year. Wilder wins that thing. You know what I'm saying? That's just my own opinion. Moving on. Fight of the year. Like I said, if I sit there and review all the fights that took place in 2017, I would literally have to stretch this thing out hours. So I've been drinking today, so I don't really know what I forgot why I omitted some fights from the fight of the year category. I don't know why I forget because I've been drinking. In fact, I'm drinking right now JD over ice. If you like brown liquor, I highly recommend getting that old number 7. It's a serious drink. Fight of the year. Now, first one I want to add to the list is Jeff Horn versus Manny Pacquiao. Going into the fight, you know, yeah, Freddie Roach talking greasy about Jeff Horn, talking about he was a bum, this, that, and the other. I mean, you can freely see these videos online. You know, you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take anything I say. Take my word for anything I say. You can search anything I say. And if I'm on some bullshit, call me on it, you know? I forget shit. You know, I do. But I try not to. I try to be as precise as possible. I try to be thorough as possible. You know what I'm saying? I try. It's not easy, but oh well. You know, I'm only human. Jeff Horn making a statement, going up in the ring with Manny Pacquiao, big welterweight. He was thought to be undeserving to be in the ring with Pacquiao, and he proved his merit. He proved he belonged in the ring with the top welterweights in the world of boxing, and he would upset the great Manny Pacquiao. And I believe he will win a world title, the WBO world title, who Pacquiao won from Jesse Vargas. That was a great fight. Blood was shed. Big punches were landed. Both guys asserted themselves well. It was back and forth. It wasn't like any guy just dominated. It was a great fight. And I think it was one of the inaugural big fights for 2017 on the ESPN boxing platform. Who, you know, they're trying to make their name on ESPN as far as hosting big fights. You know, before then we would see the Friday night fights, back in the game, the Tuesday night fights. But now they're doing championship boxing on the weekend, which is great for boxing, I think, because HBO has been on some bullshit for the last few years. So that's a category. We got Keith One-Time Thurman fight with Danny Garcia, 2 top-level welterweights, got in the ring, got it in. You know, anytime you see Keith Thurman, you ain't got to ask him to throw punches. He's going to let those hands go. Got to give him credit on that. He come to do it. Regardless of what his mouth is saying now, you know, I've made videos saying how Keith Thurman ain't talking right. It's my opinion. You know, I just don't think he's talking like the One-Time Thurman we all know. But when the bell rings, there is no talking anyway. He got his mouthpiece in. And we know what he come to do when he steps in the ring. And it was no exception when he fought Danny Garcia. Same thing with Danny Garcia. He don't play around when he get in the ring. He comes to fight. And they fought and they went hard. And that was a great fight. To which Keith Thurman would unify the welterweight division. You got Anthony Joshua versus Vladimir Klitschko in the heavyweight division. The passing of the torch, man. The passing of the torch. Vladimir Klitschko is one of the last great heavyweight champions. He's a bit long in the tooth because he's aged. His brother have been dominant in their era of boxing, and Anthony Joshua is the new face of the heavyweight division. Prove that he belongs there. The heavyweight division is looking good. There should be some great fights moving forward, especially if I'm wrong and Tyson Fury is still Tyson Fury. That would also be great. But I don't think I'm wrong on that. But I hope I'm wrong for the sake of boxing. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see those guys get in the ring and Tyson Fury back to his old ways of being a good fighter in the ring. But the fight with Anthony Joshua and Klitschko was back and forth, knockdowns on both sides. I believe Klitschko probably had the better of the stamina issues. You know, it looked like Joshua was gassed in a couple of rounds, but after the round would end and the next round would begin, he seemed like he would have his wits about himself and continue fighting hard. I think that has to do with uh, the volume of muscle mass that he has on his body. Now, if you know me, I've always said that bodybuilding and boxing are two different sports and should be respected as such. But that's neither here or there. It was a great fight, and it deserves to be a part of this category. You got Errol the Truth Spence against Kell Brook in a very big welterweight fight that took place across the pond. And Kell Brook was the longest reigning welterweight champion after Mayweather had vacated those titles when he retired. Once he vacated, the longest reigning welterweight champ at that time was Kell Brook. That's the only guy that only champion Mayweather didn't face at that weight prior to retiring. Champion. I'm not saying interim. I'm not saying silver champion and all those other various champions, NABF and all like that. I'm talking about he was the only champion left that Mayweather didn't face when he retired at welterweight, Kell Brook. And Errol Spence would go over there, and him and Kell Brook would put on a magnificent performance. Back and forth, they both were in the fight until Kell Brook, you know, the effects of the fight would get to him, and he would hurt his other eye socket, and the fight would be stopped. Catapulting Errol Spence as one of the top guys in the welterweight division. And you got this fight right here. Julian Williams coming off. He wasn't directly coming off of the knockout loss to Jermall Charlo. You know, he got a couple of wins under his belt after that fight, but he had a fight against Ishe Smith, who I'm not fond of at all. And y'all know me, you know I don't really like the cat based on an encounter that we had a long time ago. But I'll never say that the guy can't fight. I never said that. He was a good amateur, and he was a good professional, even better fighter in the gym. One of my biggest knocks on him is that he would fight harder in the gym than he did on fight night. But he didn't disappoint in the fight with Julian Williams. I think they went hard. That's another fight. If you hadn't seen it, I would advise you to go on YouTube, check it out. It was a great fight between two guys who wanted to win that night, to which Julian Williams would win. On a Mayweather Promotions card, if I'm not mistaken. Excuse me for a minute. Now, you got Canelo Alvarez versus Triple G. That's also a category for Fight of the Year. You also have what's another one? I think those are the only ones that I put on there. Oh, you also have John Molina versus Ivan Redcat. Ivan Redkach. And that was on Premier Boxing. That wasn't too long ago. Now, that was a great fight. You had back and forth action. You had knockdowns on both sides. And you had big punches thrown, big punches taken. And it was just a great fight, man. It was just a great fight. So those are the categories. If you have yours that you want to add, you can leave it in the comments. If you're watching live, you can leave it in the chat. I'll look in the chat for a minute and see what you got. LDC called Horn a bum, but now he's a great fighter because he's fighting Crawford. No, he's a great fighter. I'm not going to say he's great. He's a really good fighter because he just knocked off a great fighter. You don't get called great because somebody just likes how you look, and the things that you can do is who you do it against. And he did it against Pacquiao. Last time I checked, Pacquiao is Pacquiao. It don't have nothing to do with him fighting Crawford. It has to do with that accomplishment that he had in the ring with the great fighter. That's why he's getting recognized. It's what have you done for me lately? DW, Dante Wilder had a motherfucker looking dead, and the effect it had on around the world. Okay. Precise Puncher says Klitschko Joshua's Fight of the Year, hands down. I'm gonna have to second that emotion, man. And the killing thing about it, I've been trying to find a reason to not pick that, and I really can't find a reason to not pick that. I was trying to find the top three where I can actually toss them around and see which was the fight of the year. But again, I'm going right back to the glamour division, the heavyweights. This was the heavyweight fight of heavyweight fights. If you are accustomed to seeing heavyweight fighting, you know you don't see action like this. A typical heavyweight fighting, there's a lot of hugging going on in there. These big guys, you know, they get gassed a whole lot earlier. You know what I'm saying? And these were big guys, but they were conditioned for the big fight atmosphere underneath the lights in front of a huge audience. And these guys didn't disappoint. And I believe that the torch was effectively passed to the young charge in Anthony Joshua. Solid effort by Vladimir. He looked lighter than usual. He looked a lot more agile on his feet. And he fought a good fight. He just got unseated by the younger guy. So the fight of the year for 2017 goes to Anthony Joshua versus Vladimir Klitschko. They both should take a bow for that one. That was a very good fight. Upset of the year. Now, this is one I only have two categories. The only two categories I got in this one is Saddam Ali versus Miguel Cotto. I really don't believe anybody foresaw this fight ending the way that it did. Saddam Ali got upset by Jesse Vargas. Hell, I've seen Saddam Ali get sunned in the gym and sparring. Not taking anything away from him. He actually can fight and he can spar. It's just the one that I saw. Yo, he didn't look too hot. That was years ago, though. But he would rise to the occasion in New York and do what he had to do to beat the great Miguel Cotto, who would retire after the fight. In an upset victory to which Saddam Ali would become a world champion at 154 pounds and make himself a viable candidate for a big fight at that weight against any of the other champions. It remains to be seen who was going to be the first to step up and fight Saddam Ali. Me particularly, I think it would be Kell Brook. I think Kell Brook will go up in weight and fight Saddam Ali for that title. That's just my own opinion. It may, it may not. It just remains to be seen. As long as that title is in Golden Boy Promotions' hands, don't be surprised to see Golden Boy Promotions put another one of their fighters in the ring with them for a big championship fight at 154 pounds against Saddam Ali. You could see, well, I doubt if you see Canelo going back to 54. He's a big boy. I don't even think he can make that weight anymore. But yeah, it will probably be another Golden Boy Promotions fighter. If not, Kell Brook, which is the bigger money fight across the pond, most definitely. You also got Caleb Truax against James DeGale. That was a fight that virtually I didn't see anybody picking Caleb Truax. You know, coming out of Minnesota, I mean, it's not like he hadn't fought anybody. He fought Jermaine Taylor. He fought several guys, and to which beating them was too far-fetched. It was hard to come by in the ring. You know, the ring sorts out all the facts. But James DeGale will be fighting across the pond in the UK. And maybe his team didn't do his homework. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But at the end of the day, Team Truax did their homework and they will beat James DeGale, and he will fulfill his dreams of becoming a world champion at the weight at 168 pounds. In the, you know, one of the major upsets that took place this year. So it had to go on there. I said I only had two categories. I lied. You got Mikey Garcia versus Adrian Broner. Some people saw this as an upset. I don't even remember if I called this fight or not. And it wouldn't surprise me if anybody said Adrian Broner would beat Mikey Garcia. Broner's bigger. He had, you know, way more experience. Well, not way more, but he had more experience. You know, in fact, Mikey Garcia was out for a while because he wasn't fighting at all because he refused to work with Top Rank. You know, he had not been fighting at 140 pounds. It's not like he was just saturated and acclimated with the weight as much as Broner was. Broner has fought at welterweight, won a title at welterweight. fighters than Mikey Garcia, or who we presume were better fighters. I know they were bigger fighters than Mikey Garcia. And none of that mattered on the night of the fight. Mikey would show up and virtually sun Adrian Broner and make it a problem for the problem Broner. So that could be a one of the categories, one of the examples that I have for upset of the year. It depends on how you feel about it. And what's another one? What's another upset of the year? I just thought of it and I can't remember right now. Well, anyway, moving on. So I'm gonna have to say that the winner of upset of the year would have to be Caleb Truax versus James DeGale. I'm gonna give it to Caleb Truax. I think James DeGale, he's a switch hitter, fights from the southpaw stance and the orthodox stance. You see a lot of guys who fight out of that gym in that area fight like that. Junior Witter was another guy who used to switch hit back and forth all the time. In fact, he switched so much you just never really knew what stance he was fighting out of. And James DeGale was another one. He was just so fluid at it. The biggest thing you can do when a guy who switch hits, you hit him in transition. But if he's doing it so much, you can never catch him in transition. It could be a very off night for the opponent, to which none of that mattered to Caleb Truax. He would, go in there and handle his business, and he would beat James DeGale and become the IBF 168-pound champion at that weight. So kudos to Caleb Truax for the upset of the year for 2017. Trainer of the year. The trainer of the year entrance of the year for me, I'm going to put Papa Lomachenko in there for his work with his son. I think Lomachenko had 3 fights this year. If I'm not mistaken, he had 3 fights, all victories. He's been making guys quit left and right. One of the biggest fights wasn't against a legit 30-pounder, but it was against a pound-for-pound fighter who no one thought would quit in the ring, and myself included. Especially me being the one, I picked Lomachenko to win that fight. Initially, I picked Lomachenko to win it by stoppage, but I never thought he would go in there and make Guillermo Rigondeaux quit. So Papa Lomachenko was in that thing. You got Derek James for his work with Twin, with Jermell Charlo. People are saying because of Charlo leaving Ronnie Shields in Houston, the switch that he made with Derek James made him a more crowd-pleasing fighter. He would stand his ground a whole lot more and move a lot less. And he turned him into a bona fide knockout artist. Can you really argue with that? I find it hard to argue with that, And then you got Derek James's work with Errol Spence going across the pond and stopping Kell Brook to become welterweight champion of the world. So the efforts done by Derek James in the year 2017 is going noticed, to which he is an entrant in the trainer of the year, at least in my opinion. Somebody else may choose somebody else. Like I said, I have no trophies for these guys. Nothing to give them. Is just online honors. And the last entrant is Andre Rozier. I just talked about Saddam Ali becoming world champion against Miguel Cotto. Well, his trainer is Andre Rozier. Andre Rozier has brought a lot of guys into the sport, especially in this last era. Some of them will become world champion and some of them did not. But his work with Saddam Ali and his work with Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs would give Triple G a very tough fight. In fact, I said Danny Jacobs beat him. That's just my own opinion. Anybody saying Triple G just whooped his ass, you smoking some bullshit. I don't, matter of fact, you need to throw that away. Go get you some good green. Go get you some exotics. That was a close fight, and the challenger looked like he came to fight. And if Triple G won, he won it by a hair. Because he was literally half a point from being unseated as the middleweight champion of the world. A lot of people uh, judged by favoritism, and they'll say, "Well, Triple G won, but Danny Jacobs is a great fighter," and try to give him these accolades. No, he don't want your sympathy and your accolades. He want victory, because that's what he came to get. In my opinion, he was robbed of victory, but it wasn't a robbery. Somebody says it wasn't a robbery. Nah, I don't know. It has to. I don't know. It has to go down as a possible robbery. You don't like it? Oh well. You know, I judge fights based on how I'm seeing them. So, but anyway, trainer of the year, in my opinion, has to go to. I'm gonna give it to Derek James out of Dallas, Texas. Why I'm not giving it to Papa Lomachenko? You only got one fighter. You only have one fighter. You know what I'm saying? And the work you did with him last year is great. You know what I'm saying? The work you did with him when he won the Prospect of the Year is great. But having one fighter, you know, I'm only seeing what you're doing with this phenom, who is your son. If he gets a couple of fighters underneath him and he's able to build them into champions, you know, hell, let's see what happens. But I'm not taking it away from him. He's a great trainer. Why? Because he brought his son through all these various national championships in the amateurs, world championships in the amateurs, gold medals in the amateurs, and several divisions, world titles in the professional ranks. That's a great trainer. That means he could take a guy in a mold and build him into a champion. Not a lot of guys can do that. Your boy Freddie Roach never did that, ever. And Papa Lomachenko did that. But this category is trainer of the year, not trainer of the decade. You know, which, you know, you'd have to include him in that, the year. I'm not giving it to Andre Rozier because he's also the trainer of Curtis Stevens. And Curtis Stevens is a legit entrant in KO of the year, being the recipient of that KO. So obviously, it's something not going right in that camp. Maybe it has something to do with just that fighter. But because his fighter suffered a KO loss like that, not just a defeat like that, to where he was concussed, I had to exclude him for trainer of the year and give it to the guy whose work stood out the most, and that's Derek James with his work with Errol Spence and Jermell Charlo. Point blank, period. Robbery of the year. The two entries I have are Danny Jacobs versus Triple G versus James DeGill. I'm gonna make this one really quick. I'm gonna give that one to Badou Jack versus James DeGill. I think Badou Jack legitimately won that fight easy. I don't think it was as close as most thought. The Danny Jacobs fight, I thought Danny Jacobs won wholeheartedly. I thought he beat Triple G, but at the end of the day, it was a close fight. But the one that stood out the most was Badou Jack's performance against James DeGill. That, in my opinion, is robbery of the year. Like I said, if you have any, throw them in the chat, or on archive, throw them in the comment section. It's up to you. I know everybody's out, you know, buying Christmas gifts, this, that, and the other. I understand, you know, it's that time of the year. Happy holidays, you know, to those who celebrate it. But we're going to move on because I got to finish this. Fighter of the year. You have the undisputed 140-pound champion in Terrence Crawford, unifying the division of 140, which had not been unified for the undisputed title since the great Costa Tszyu. In beating Ndongo. And who else did he fight in 2000? Was it Felix Diaz that Terrence Crawford fought in 2017? He fought Ndongo and beat him via stoppage, via KO by a body shot, a nasty KO. And who else did he fight this year? I believe it was Felix Diaz. Yeah, Felix Diaz. He would beat him and stop him in the 10th round. Toyed with him. And Felix Diaz comes to fight. Two very good fights for 2017. We also got Vasyl Lomachenko in the Fighter of the Year category for his 3 fights this year in 2017, with the most notable being making Guillermo Rigondeaux quit in the ring in a title defense. But he also beat 2 other guys this year, bringing his record to 10-1 with 8 knockouts. He beat Miguel Mariaga, and he would make his corner stop the fight late. He also beat the very durable Jason Sosa, and that fight would be stopped in the 9th. 3 very good outings for Vasyl Lomachenko. The one he got the most recognition from is the one against Guillermo Rigondeaux for whatever reason. But I'm more impressed what he did with the legit 30-pounders at that weight. Me personally. Fighter of the Year category could also be Errol Spence. He only fought 1 time this year in his title-winning effort against Kell Brook, but some people thought he should be thrown in there. You also got Deontay Wilder, the heavyweight champion of the world. What would make him the Fighter of the Year? Because 2 major heavyweight fights were canceled to no doing of his own. He was quite the professional. He would go to camp, he would make the weight, he would not test dirty. He was supposed to fight Povetkin. Povetkin tested dirty. I believe that was the end of in 2017, he was supposed to fight Luis Ortiz, who was a former world champion at that weight of heavyweight. Champion fighter coming out of Cuba, Southpaw. Deontay Wilder would also beat the undefeated Gerald Washington, who was 18-0. He would stop him in the 5th round. And of course, he would knock out Bermane Stiverne in the 1st round back in November. So what could the year have been for Deontay Wilder if those guys would have actually gotten the ring and mixed it up? And to me, the Fighter of the Year, based on the accomplishments of the year, I'm giving it to, and I know some of y'all are going to really fucking hate it, but I don't give a fuck. It goes to Terrence Bud Crawford, being the first guy to unify the division of 140 pounds, becoming undisputed, a very worthy feat. Why? Because there's no other champion at that weight. No other titleist at that weight that holds claim to being a champion. He was the guy. It's called cleaning the division. And it's something you rarely see in the sport of boxing. It's not done always. That means whatever your dispute is, put that shit in a fucking diary. That's what undisputed means. Not subject to dispute. And he is the only guy to do it. He's the Fighter of the Year 2017, in my opinion. Comeback Fighter of the Year, we got Shawn Porter as an entrant. Previously, Shawn, what is his name? Showtime, Shawn Porter. He lost the fight to Keith Thurman at the middle of last year, around June. He would have a comeback fight against Andre Berto. He would stop Andre Berto. And he also had a fight with Adrian Granados, who is a durable 140-pounder, who actually belongs at welterweight because he's so fucking big. But he's the first entrant in the Comeback Fighter of the Year. You also have Leo Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz would avenge his only, I believe it's his only defeat. His only defeat in rematching Carl Frampton from across the pond. He would rematch Carl Frampton and beat him by a majority decision and reclaiming the WBA super He will win the super champion of the WBA world title at 126 pounds. And his next fight in October of that year would be against Chris Avalos, to which he would stop Avalos via 8-round KO in a entertaining scrap. What other entries do I have for this one? You got Sullivan Barrera. You also got Caleb Truax. And you have Javier Fortuna. If you look at, all the feats accomplished by either of those three, you would understand why they are categories in this particular topic, comeback fighter of the year. But to me, the comeback fighter of the year goes to Leo Santa Cruz. His comeback means the most out of all the categories, out of all the people in the category. It was an immediate rematch. It's not like he sat on, got all, pouted or needed a tune-up fight or anything like that. He had the immediate rematch against Carl Frampton at the beginning of the year, and he will leave no stone unturned by reclaiming his world title and beating Carl Frampton for the super champ, the WBA super championship for the in the featherweight division, and giving Carl Frampton his first defeat as a professional. And he also beat Chris Avalos. To me, those are the biggest statements out of the guys in that category. I could be wrong. Do your own video. That's why these things are subjective. One of the last categories before I cut this thing short is prospect of the year. My prospects in this particular category, we got Andrew Selby. We have Anthony Yard. We got Shakur Stevenson. We got Sergey Derevyanchenko. We got Darwin Price. We also have y'all probably don't even know who Darwin Price is. We also got Devin the Dream Haney, who was trained by Mayweather Sr. Now, this is one of the difficult categories because you got some guys that want to put contenders in this category. A contender's not a prospect, and you can't make a prospect year after year after year after year. At some point, he has to graduate status. Now, some guys could have legitimately, I guess, been in this, but like David Benavidez, he's a champ. That's not a contender, right? Arthur Beterbiev. Some people will look at his record and be like, "Oh, this prospect." No, he's not a prospect. He don't belong in this category at all. You know what I'm saying? In the light heavyweight division, he's 12-0 with 12 knockouts. That is, at least numerically, he would belong in this particular category. But he just won a vacant IBF world title via KO. He is not a prospect no more. You got to shit or get off the pot now. You are a world champion. So he is excluded from this category altogether. It's guys like my guy from New Orleans, but he trained in Houston for a lot of years. Regis Prograis. Regis Prograis, I believe, is 18-0. I think he got like 12 or 13 knockouts. Regis is about to fight for a world title against Victor Postal. He is a legitimate 140-pound world title challenger. That's contender status. He is not a prospect. He don't belong in this category at all. So it's certain guys I just would not put in this category who most would. They want to keep these guys contenders forever, like Alex Saucedo. You know what I'm saying? These guys, I mean, they've graduated from prospect category. At least I'm just going to say, at least in my opinion. Okay? But not to shoot a dead horse. I think the winner has to be between Darwin, at least in my opinion, Darwin Price and Devin the Dream Haney, in my opinion. Why? Well, Devin the Dream Haney has been on a super fast track. Um, Everybody know Devin Haney based on all the guys that he's been sparring against. And I already know sparring and sparring and fighting are two different things. You know, when you spar, you're getting in there to work on the things that will benefit you when it comes fight time. But he sparred with Sean Porters. He sparred with Tank Davis. He sparred with a lot of different professionals whose names you know, whose names elude me at this time because of this fucking alcohol. But you could do a search on it. It's, you know, it's the internet. It's the internet age. You can find whatever you need on the internet. Well, mostly. But Devin Haney has been on the fast track, and he has fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times this year. All victories, and 5 coming by way of knockout. You don't move somebody at that pace unless they got something. But also to add to that, he fought what was it? 9 times last year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 times last year, all victories. So he's on a fast track status. He's not on the track that obviously Lomachenko's on, but he's also 10 years younger than Lomachenko as well. And this is a guy to look out for. He has a lot of good ability, fast hands, good defense, decent pop, good counterpunching ability. And he goes after his guy, man. He digs to the body very well. I mean, he goes to that body. You don't have to ask him to dig. He will do so. But you also got Darwin Price, who has knocked off prospects. He's knocked off Gervonta Starks. You know, most guys probably don't know who he is. He knocked off Samaje Thomas, coming out of Chicago. Samaje was a big-time prospect, good amateur, and he was highly touted coming into the professional ranks, being trained by Nate Jones, who trains. He's a part of the Mayweather's camp. Nate Jones was a badass heavyweight in amateurs himself, you know, but he got, you know, his career had to be derailed. So he's coming from good stock, good lineage in terms of boxing. And Darwin Price would unseat that young man and give him his first professional loss. And most recently, he knocked off Highland Lil Ced Williams. Now, if you're anywhere from the South, no one could have predicted that Highland Williams would have the record that he has right now, would be in the predicament that he's in right now. Everybody and their mama said Highland Williams was going to be one of the first world champions for the guys that had turned pro within a while around the time that he turned pro. And I've seen Highland fight guys who are world champion right now, guys who are world champion right at this moment. I've seen Highland spar them and beat the brakes off of them in the gym. You know what I'm saying? I've seen Highland Williams spar against guys who used to be world champion and beat the brakes off of them in the gym. So I would have never thought Highland Williams would have the losses that he has. You know, nevertheless, he's a truly talented guy. I always thought he should have fought around 126 pounds as a professional, but he chose to go to 30. And ever since he got unseated by Rances Bartholomew, you know, the hype that was surrounding Highland Williams, former national champion in the amateurs, just kind of fell off as he fell off himself. And Darwin Price was the last one to really give it to him. So Darwin Price knocked off Highland Williams, Samaje Thomas, Gervonta Tank Davis as a prospect. And based on that, I'm going to give it to Darwin Price, a guy you don't even know who he is. Do your research. Give it to whoever you think should get it. But I can't give it to Devin the Dream Haney. You know, I don't give a damn that you trained by Mayweather Sr. Prospect of the year goes to Darwin Price. As far as I'm concerned, round of the year, it can be a Klitschko, Joshua, around Klitschko and Joshua, but I'm giving it to John Molina Jr. versus Ivan Redcat, round 2. That was a great round of boxing. I would recommend you guys Looking at that fight, it was a great fight, very entertaining, back and forth. Round of the year, John Molina Jr. and Ivan Redcat, round 2. Statement fighter of the year for me is Jarrett Hurd. I didn't think Jarrett Hurd. I thought he would probably lose his title. I thought he would be unseated by now. He's a come forward fighter, very rugged and strong. And he got in the ring with Tony Harrison, who has better skills, and a former world champion in Austin Trout. And if you didn't think Austin Trout can still fight, look at his fight with Jamal Charlo, which he would give Jamal a very good fight in that fight. You know, he was in that thing. And it wasn't enough. Hurd would let him get his load off. Trout would get off everything that he had in his repertoire, and Jarrett Hurd just kept coming like none of that shit even mattered. And he would stop Austin Trout. So to me, he is the statement fighter of the year. I didn't foresee these things happening. They're talking about making a fight with him and Jermell Charlo in the future. I can't wait to see that. Jermell says there's no way he gonna sit there and take shots, flush shots from me and keep coming. And the way Jermell punching right now, I can't wait to see it. I'm salivating right now. Well, it could be because it's JD too. So Jarrett Hurd, statement fighter of the year. Fighter to look out for in 2018, Jared Big Baby Miller and Regis Prograis. Jared's Big Baby Miller in the heavyweight division, doing a lot of great things with his big ass. Regis Prograis doing what I've always seen him doing what I saw him doing as an amateur, beating motherfuckers up. You know, you didn't spar Regis and you ain't have to protect yourself. Regis come to do it. It always has been like that. He will let them hands go. Fighting out the southpaw stance, got some pop too. Great fighter, man. Really good fighter. On the cusp of his first world title shot against somebody. You know, it's not like he's giving the world title, not gifting it to him. He's going to have to work. He's going to have to beat Victor Postal for that title. Another fighter to look out for in the same division, Alex Saucedo. I remember watching him as a prospect. Top Rank had him. I think they still got him. But he was a prospect for some time. I think they've been taking their time with him. He's fighting out of Oklahoma, of Mexican descent. I think he has really good talent, man. I love to see what he can do moving forward. Now, I was going to add another topic called Prospect Watch, but I'm not going to do that because I already dragged this thing out over an hour. And I think it needs to stop at some point. But what I really wanted to do was get my boxing year-end review honors video out there before everybody start dropping theirs. Other uploaders are going to have some really big videos. It should be a lot of people going to be chiming in. I'm going to be chiming in. If I'm a part of the panel, I'm just in the chat. That'll be cool. I'm definitely going to support. And I recommend you guys do too. If you check this thing out on archive, don't hesitate to give your boy a thumb up. Or if you don't like it, thumb the bitch down. If you thumb it down, leave a comment why you so salty. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Let's just get some activity going online. For the sport of boxing, it don't make me a bit of difference whatsoever any fucking way. I'm just glad you even took the time to listen to it. It's just me. It's just old Ash. You know what I'm saying? Who am I? I'm just another boxing fan just like you. Check that out, man. How you gonna do that shit while I'm streaming? But I'm gonna go ahead and stop this thing, and I'll do another video probably tomorrow for a prospect watch. The guys y'all should be looking out for in 2018. Guys who have not, a lot of them haven't been on TV, or a lot of them have been on the undercards of fights that y'all probably haven't even seen. Who knows? But that should be coming up. That should be pretty big. Like I said, it's prospect watch. It won't be contender watch. So guys like Saucedo probably won't be on there. Regis, he won't be on there. Christopher Diaz, he won't be on there. These are not prospects. These are contenders. So anyway, man, that's all I got. 2017 Boxing Year in Review online, Boxing Community Honors. Have my winners out there. If you dispute any of it, leave it in the comment section. I'm out this thing, man. Y'all be easy and, be careful during the holidays. Don't drink too much. And if you do, make sure you're indoors. All right, I'm out.